Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Learning to Trade. I have made a few mistakes and I'm here to tell you, one, I'm super pissed off because I missed the webinar, Trader Dante's webinar this morning. I rushed into the office just to receive a packet that would be delivered from FedEx, and I don't know why, but I just completely bypassed the fact that I needed to pick up this parcel. So to do the webinar, so what I've done is I've tried to counteract this by setting a calendar reminder for every morning. So that's going to email me and send me a reminder. So that's one thing that I've frustrated about. The other thing is I am going to delete this now because although the direction was panning out in my favour, what's actually happened is towards the evening I wasn't paying attention. I wonder if you remember in the previous video I didn't actually go through it too much, but I entered another additional 100 contracts just to, I was scaling into this position. Now, two stupid things that I did. I forgot to set a buy to get me out of this position. So I had 100 contracts on here. I'd already set my limit. So I set my... where would that have been on here? Actually, do you know what? It's easier to point it out on this chart. So I entered around about here, where my dotted line currently showing, and we started to drop further, in which case and when we bounced back up, I took another additional 100 contracts to the short position. But I didn't even put a sorry, I'm just watching this candle here because that brings me on to my next setup. I didn't even put a limit order. Actually, would have been a stop market. Sorry, that's all I've been using exclusively at the minute is stop markets. So I didn't put my stop market in for this one, so I was left overnight. So this is how horrible this trade was and how badly managed it was. So this one obviously got stopped out, and it got stopped out here for a very, very small loss. I mean, what's that? 2.7%, 100 contracts. It was about £2. It was less than that, I think, because of such a small position I played, because I wasn't overly confident that this was going to reach down here, but I just wanted to take it anyway because one of my indicators pinged to say that was the direction, and I was looking at, realistically I should have seen that there is quite a fair bit of I think it just doesn't really look like a level of solid support or resistance for me, but I took it anyway just out of curiosity to see what happens. Again, like I said, at this stage learning, very, very small amounts of money, but a little bit of money, have some skin in the game, keeps you focused, helps you feel that emotional swing when you do lose, and it really makes you pay attention to how you can stop from losing again in the future. So one thing just quickly that I'm going to go through is I have been making notes of stuff that is of significance to me. So I need to put the date in, 25th of March 2020. So I'm going to put 2nd of April 2020. 2nd April 2020. Terrible risk management. I'm just going to have a look back, jump back to this, wait for confirmation, as I could have let this run even higher. Okay, so basically I'm trying to put together some rules Yeah, so I mentioned here, added to the position further down, didn't amend stops or below entry. So that's another thing that I was looking to, you'll have to excuse my language on there, that's obviously not how I intended for it to be read to anyone else, but it's just a reminder to me that this huge run up, I know it's not huge in the grand scheme of things, but when you're playing on the hourly, it does make all the difference. So where was I? I was saying about actually setting, basically when it gets towards this time of night and the action seems to happen when I'm not around, it's just coincidence, when it has been for the last few. I could have, given that I wasn't confident on the trade in the first place, have set my stops, my stop markets, I could have moved them down. Stop market singular, because I didn't have a stop market for this additional trade that I added to. Yeah, I could have just dragged this below entry. And you know what? I would have come out probably break even, because the 200 contracts in here, 100 contracts here, leveling out around this point, that may have just broken even, and I could have just said, hey ho, learning experience. But the worst part of this was just stupidly just adding to the position, and then this is the sickening thing, right? This here, 100 contract, would have stopped out roughly around here had I have set it. But no, it ran all the way up here until this morning when I realised, and I logged into BitMEX and the position was still open, and I thought, why the fuck is that still open? And there you go, bad risk management, rushing in, not understanding. To be entirely honest, I only understand the bare minimum of, hit the green button, hit the red button. I know this has been my strategy so far, which is, I get in a position where I'm comfortable to buy because, of the indicators that I use, and then I say, okay, let's have a look at some of the support and resistance and see what we're going to potentially do within those levels, and just test it out and see what happens. Anyway, so that's that done and dusted. We can leave that behind. We've got some experience. If I can make a better sort of keyword-based title when I come back to look on the trading journal or this video diary, I can have a look and sort of recap on this and maybe make some notes about what not to do in the future. So note number one would be, if I can't manage the trade and I'm holding it overnight, or I'm cooking dinner or whatever and busy, then just move your stops down, unless you're confident of the direction. And also, maybe just don't add to a position, or if you do, just be incredibly vigilant on what you're playing with, because then obviously you've got these two orders, two sides, say you've got 100 and 100, you'll see two come up here, and then I've just gone and basically ignored the fact that that other one was open and it didn't have anywhere to close. So stupid mistake. Just looking back on the account, let's have a look. Where is it? Oh, it's just below here, that's what I can see. Currently, yeah, so I managed to get my account up to 0.05, and that's what I lost. So it's not hateful, but it's still, I just don't like seeing it. But this is all part of the journey. It's all part of the emotional side of things as well. Like I've spent more than that on pens and pencils. Do you know what I mean? It's irrelevant. It's about how it feels to you and what you should be doing in order to manage that risk. And just, imagine doubling that number, and that's 20 quid or whatever, and then even add another naught and it's 200 quid. It really starts to, you can see why these people say, I lost £1,000 straight in the red when I first opened the trade, and then I lost £1,000. You're like, whoa, how did you get there? Well, if you're trading bigger positions, you're still perhaps risking only 1 or 2% of your account, but that account is like what? It's like you could have you could have 100,000, you could have a £10,000 account. You could have £100 account, and you could still, crank up the leverage and really fucking make a mess of all of this. So that's what I'm trying to do at this stage, is just make sure I get comfortable with these feelings, and I think that's probably one of the most important things at this stage. And then being self-aware in order to make the changes. And that's actually one of the things that came up in last night's webinar from Trader Dante was basically the traits that make a good trader. And number one on his list was being self-aware and making sure that you can basically make changes. Actually, where's the screenshot? Actually, it doesn't matter at this stage. Yeah, it's basically being self-aware, making sure that you can improve. Yeah, I'll have to bring that up and make notes as some other stuff that I need to get on with at this stage. Anyway, just quickly going through to this next setup. This line here was something that I set as just a reminder on previous support, and which is now becoming resistance. Obviously, we can't push any further through this until there's a clean break and we carry on further up. But my general, so I placed a small 200 contracts on this. Right, okay. To I think long here. I think 100%. And you'd say, well, why? Why would you go long when you've already made this run up from here? Well, I genuinely think that we've come up through here. Yeah, okay, so we've been pushed back down. We've bounced off of here. I think we've that's enough for me to know that we've retested the area. We're going back up. And let's potentially see what happens after this. I think we may potentially bounce around in this range again, but I do think that we're going to go up further. Just the general momentum, and you can see here that we're getting this. All right, it's not perfect, and I've been sort of told that diagonals aren't really the best way of looking at stuff, but it does feel like we're getting these higher lows. Although one thing to take into consideration is that we are increasingly, if you were to draw something out like that, this is sort of what we're looking at. We could potentially get it's just one of the patterns that could emerge from here. So it's just something that I'm trying to be aware of. If we do break and hold above here, then I think that is bullish, and we're going to potentially ride up until this previous let's draw that out, this previous level of support. Currently my money is on just a sharp wick up to this sort of area, and that's what I'm looking for at this stage. So let's just see how that goes. It's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. Like on the longer time frames, my thinking is, look, we've got this structure, this kind of thing forming here. Just depending if you are looking at that, thinking that's quite bearish. I think so too. But I definitely know that we are to expect at least some upward, upward into this kind of level here at least. So that's what I'm going to look out for. I'm going to see how this plays out. Currently sitting under my entry point. If we do dip down to here and retest this sort of area, I'm going to add to the position. But this time I'm going to add to the position with a very small amount, and then I'm going to basically just increase the vigilance on making sure that there is another, basically make sure that I add contracts to the stop market, which would be that, just to remind myself, and then see where we go from there. So hopefully, if any of you are playing out on this, or if you did actually use a similar setup yesterday, I hope that it sort of played out in your favour, and that maybe you did take profit down here. If you, or if you ran this one and you could see this one coming, then congratulations. Yeah, it's a really nice, clean, fast move. I'd love to know how any of you spotted that. If you did, perhaps you were looking for this trend line here. I don't know. Yeah, that would be great to know if you do. All right, so that's everything for now. I hope you're all staying safe still and looking after yourselves. And I will be back in the next video. All right.